They're on their soapbox. There you go.
Yes, you got to do all the ballot questions.
Oh, yeah. I'll make it quick and easy and painless. With that, we have the Justice of the Peace candidates already standing up there, ready to take questions at this time. You know, when you're looking at the Justice Peace job, it's changed a little bit over time. In 2015, we took the office from dealing with cases in the legislature from $10,000. Now they're up to $15,000, I believe, in that respect. But I think it's really important. We had a lot of things we could talk about this, Bobby, but I think it's going to be funner just to have them describe the job in a bit and have a little bit of fun with that.
I like that.
So with that, let us begin with the candidates' opening remarks. The cards are drawn earlier. The first person to speak will be Jeff Schemenauer. Please go ahead, sir.
Good evening. I want to start by thanking the Business Council, the Chamber of Commerce, and the Record Courier for hosting this important event. I'm Jeff Schemenauer, and I'm running for East Fork Justice of the Peace. I'm an Army veteran with 29 years experience in law enforcement. I've dedicated the last 25 years to your Douglas County Sheriff's Office, where I recently retired after a very fulfilling career. Throughout my time in law enforcement, I served on SWAT, Bomb Squad, and was a lead instructor for critical training programs. During my tenure at DCSO, I served as a detective for 10 years and was a sergeant in charge of court services, giving me firsthand knowledge of the court system. My detective experience resulted in hundreds of years of prison sentences. This hands-on experience is invaluable and directly applies to the responsibilities of Justice of the Peace. My judicial philosophy is clear. I am tough on crime. I'm committed to justice for all. I believe in accountability. Justice should be blind, and everyone counts. In addition to my practical experience, I do have a law degree, a master's in management and leadership, and a bachelor's in criminal justice. I earned all three of these degrees while working full-time and raising my family here in Douglas County. My diverse experience in education and training uniquely qualify me to serve as Justice Court Judge. I know what it takes to keep you safe because I've been doing it for over 25 years. And I still have more to give. I will continue to bring common sense to the bench, grounded by a lifetime of uncommon experiences. I want to make it clear, I'm not requesting or accepting endorsements. This is not about special interests or labor unions. It's about serving the citizens, you of Douglas County, and keeping you safe. I believe in maintaining the integrity of the judicial process. So I ask you tonight, do you want a lawyer or do you want a warrior as your next Justice Court Judge? I stand before you as your warrior for justice, ready to serve and protect our community. Thank you for your time. I look forward to the questions.
Thank you. With that, we'll move to Lori Trotter.
Good evening. I'm Lori Trotter, and I'm running for East Fork Justice of the Peace. I am so delighted to be with you all tonight, and I thank you for this opportunity to speak with you. Please keep in mind the importance of this job. There's 3 points I hope you'll take away. Number one is that the position of the Justice of the Peace has significant consequences for the safety of our community. Everyone arrested, from trespass to murder, appears before the Justice Court, who decides regarding release and bail and other important decisions. Number two, we all know how complicated life is today. It's critical that the person who serves as the Justice of the Peace has the legal experience and the training to successfully navigate the challenges of the Justice Court and keep our community safe. And number three, I am the only candidate who's licensed to practice law, and I've been practicing law in this area for 21 years right here in Northern Nevada. And I have the experience, I've practiced criminal and civil law, and I have the experience to handle the myriad decisions and responsibilities which come before the court. I've served the hardworking people in this area for 21 years as an attorney, and I'm delighted to be a resident of Douglas County. I share the rural values that make this community a safe and enjoyable place to live, raise families, and work. Over the many years, I've served as a deputy district attorney right here in Douglas County. I founded and managed a successful law firm and currently serve as a senior attorney for the state of Nevada as an insurance fraud prosecutor. When I'm elected, here's a list of my priorities. Number one is keeping the community safe by holding offenders accountable. Number two, protection of constitutional rights. Number three, preserving victims' rights. And four, serving with integrity and fairness. I have an endorsement from the Douglas County Sheriff Protective Association.
That is time. With that, we now go, those two are both running for the East Fork Protection District. We'll now go to appointed judge by the Douglas County Commissioners, Michael Johnson, Tahoe Township.
Thank you very much. My name's Mike Johnson. I'm the judge of the Tahoe Court. Exactly 1 year and 4 days ago, the Douglas County Commissioners appointed me to finish the remaining term of the prior judge who retired before his term was up. So all 5 county commissioners unanimously voted to appoint me judge at about 11 o'clock that day. By 11:30 that day, I'd been sworn in, and by 1 o'clock that afternoon, I had taken the bench and was ready to work. I can't imagine how I would have performed in that situation if I had not been specifically preparing for it for decades. So I'd been an attorney in Tahoe, in State Line specifically, for about 26 years, practicing law, including in the Tahoe Court. I'd also been a judge pro tem of the Tahoe Court for about 18 years. I figured I've handled about 100 trials over the years, either as attorney or judge. And I did all these things in part so that if I ever had the opportunity and the honor of becoming judge of the Tahoe Court, I'd be well prepared to take the bench and handle the job correctly. So I have been handling the job correctly. I've been making legally correct and fair rulings as presiding judge since being appointed, rulings which protect the public and the individual rights. I think if you ask anyone who regularly appears in my court, that may include District Attorney Mark Jackson, defense attorneys, civil attorneys, etc., I think they would all agree that I've been providing legally correct and fair rulings to everybody that comes before me. I would point out that Mr. Jackson, in his individual capacity and not as district attorney, has endorsed me. I've also been endorsed by the group of sheriff's deputies, about 100 of them, Nevada state troopers, former prosecutors, bailiffs, civil attorneys. In short, my experience not only matters, it's vital to the operation of the Tahoe Court. Thanks.
Thank you. With that, we had another candidate who had a conflict. Rick Gardner is also running for the judgeship for the Tahoe Township. I think it's important to mention to everybody that the Tahoe Township is basically everyone within Douglas County, I believe, within the bowl of Lake Tahoe. Would that be correct?
Right. There's a little bit outside the basin, but everything up from the state line up to Spooner Summit, basically.
And with that, the other candidates are both running for the East Fork Township, which is basically the rest of Douglas County. So with that, we're going to get into the first question, which some of you have already addressed a little bit, but we're going to start off with Ms. Trotter. The first question is, please talk to us about your understanding of the Justice Court and its purposes, including what types of cases come through this court.
So the East Fork Justice Court is a very busy court. It takes every single criminal case, starts in the East Fork Justice Court, from jaywalking to murder. And there are trials on misdemeanor matters and trials on jury trials on domestic violence matters and preliminary hearings on felony matters, which they could be very serious felonies. And the rules of evidence are followed. Attorneys, it's a formal process with attorneys who appear and they make objections. And so the preliminary hearing can be a situation that that matters a lot for our community, and it's critical that the person who serves in that position has the legal experience and training to do that job like I do. And the civil matters that come before the court are $15,000 and under for every civil matter, and there's a streamlined small claims process of $10,000 and under in the Justice Court as well.
And that's time. With that, we'll now go to Mr. Johnson. Same question.
Sure. So that statistically speaking, in the Tahoe Court, I think about 85%, maybe 85% of the cases that are filed there are criminal cases. So it's primarily adjudicating criminal cases. But we also handle civil cases such as protection orders, orders against stalking or harassment or domestic violence, things like that, do evictions, and then, as Ms. Trotter said, claims for money. The most commonly charged crime, I looked at the statistics in the Tahoe, I use this as a trivia question all the time. The most commonly charged crime in Tahoe is trespass, because that seems to come up at the casinos a lot. But keep in mind, you know, the most important thing I think we do, the most serious thing I think we do at the Tahoe Court is setting bail on serious felony matters. Those felonies are not going to ultimately, likely, be adjudicated in the Tahoe Court, but bail is set when the person is first arrested in the Tahoe Court, in any justice court. And I think it's important to do that and do that properly.
Thank you. With that, same question to Mr. Schinnemauer.
The Justice Court is a limited liability court that handles non-traffic misdemeanors, summary evictions, protection orders, small claims, and traffic offenses. And yes, all cases do go through there, but the major cases, the felonies, are quickly pushed up to your district courts after preliminary hearings. Your Justice Court judge is not putting people in prison. They're not taking away your constitutional rights. I consider it the minor leagues of the court, and I mean no disrespect to that. It's important to understand that the current Justice Court judge in the East Fork is not an attorney. He does not have a law degree, but what he has is decades of dedication to this community, and that's why he does a great job. Thank you.
Thank you. And this is a very important court. One of the things that was mentioned about the court is I'm correct. It was a ruling that now dictates that if you're going to give anybody jail time, you actually have to have a jury trial, if I'm correct. And that was
For
a recent-
domestic violence.
So with that, we're going to move to question 2.
So for question number 2, we will start with Mr. Johnson. Please explain your understanding of the history of the Douglas County Judiciary and the independence of the judicial branch of government.
Sure. So Canon 1 of the Nevada Code of Judicial Conduct has, as one of the 4 I's, the 4 aspirational or required goals of any judge, is independence. So just like our federal government has the 3 branches that are a check and balances against each other, it works that same way, in a similar way anyway, with regard to the local level. And the judges, whether it be Justice Court, District Court, or whoever, are to maintain an independent attitude, are to maintain independent decisions, not be swayed by public sentiment, and respect the role of the other branches of government.
Mr. Schinnemauer, same question.
In 1987, the Nevada Supreme Court ruled that in populations less than 100,000 people, the Justice Court judges could not be attorneys. And that's an important factor because in the rural communities, at the time, it was hard to get licensed attorneys to live and work in some of the rurals of Nevada that are pretty spread out. So the court has allowed non-attorneys to handle the cases that have been described. It is a nonpartisan position. Again, they can't sentence people to prison. They can't take away your constitutional rights. They do have to follow the rule of law. And by and large, the district attorney and defense are driving the bus and putting on the case. Thank you.
And Ms. Trotter, same question.
So the judiciary is this third part of our government. We have the executive branch who enforces the law, the legislative branch who creates the law, and the judiciary interprets and applies the law. I just, for point of clarification, an activist judge is a judge that tries to make the law from the bench rather than follow the law as is in the cases and in the statutes. And I will serve as a judge that follows the law. I will not be an activist judge. I believe that it's not the role of the judiciary to make law. That's the role of the legislative branch. I also didn't, in my opening, I didn't finish what my endorsements are. I've been endorsed by the Douglas County Sheriff Protective Association, by Mark Jackson, by Dan Coverly, by the Nevada Police Union and the Nevada Association of Public Safety Officers, along with Justin Klauser
And that is time.
Now move to question number 3, which will start off with Mr. Johnson. Please describe your understanding of the rules of judicial. Oh, he's here last time. I apologize. With that, I guess we're back to Mr. Schinnemauer.
All right.
Please describe your understanding of the rules of judicial ethics.
The rules of judicial ethics are that the judge running the court ensures that the prosecution is doing their job, that the rules of evidence are followed, and they ensure that defense does their job, represents their clients to the best of the law. Judicial ethics, it's tongue tie, are I believe ethics are a common sense approach. You either have ethics or you don't. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question, Ms. Trotter.
My opponent has indicated that he would like to bring common sense to the bench. but he's indicated in his campaign materials that he believes that having an endorsement of the rules of judicial ethics. I've been endorsed by 4 people that both my opponent and I requested those endorsements, the ones I just mentioned. And so we both requested the endorsements and I received them and I'm grateful for them. And I'm grateful for the Nevada rules of judicial ethics that authorize those endorsements. They're lawful and they're helpful to the public because they help educate the public about the campaign and the candidates running for the campaign. And so Rule 4.2 allows judicial candidates to seek and accept endorsements from any person or organization except partisan political parties.
Thank you.
I'd like to rebut that if possible.
If you call somebody else's name, just so you know, the rules of rebuttal that I tend to follow is if you call somebody's name or you ask them about something, I do give rebuttal. So you have 30 seconds.
It's important that 4.2 does state that you can endorse, but just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I did not say that it's illegal to endorse judicial candidates. I said my opinion was I wasn't going to do it, and that decision came after my association didn't endorse me. It was actually a blessing in disguise because it helped me stay grounded with my ethical belief that I don't want to owe anything to anyone on the first day in office. I believe it's a slippery slope. I never said it was illegal.
With that, question number 3 to Mr. Johnson. Please describe your understanding of the rules of judicial ethics.
Sure. Well, first of all, there's your conscience, what you're born with and your common sense. But I think what you're getting at is the Nevada Code of Judicial Conduct, which has 4 canons to it. Canon 1 basically talks about independence and integrity, and being impartial. Canon 2 has to do with competency. Canon 3 has to do with putting the judge job first to the exclusion of outside competing interests. And Canon 4 has to do with political restrictions and primarily has to do with staying nonpartisan.
Thank you.
So question number 4, we'll start with Ms. Trotter. Please tell us your thoughts on the disparity between the East Fork Justice Court caseload and the Justice of the Peace Court caseload.
Yes, so there is a disparity between the caseload and the East Fork Justice Court and the Tahoe Township Justice Court. I think that's related to the jurisdictional boundaries. The boundaries for the East Fork Justice Court go all the way down to California through past Topaz, and then to Wellington, and all the way to Lyon County, and then all the way to Carson City to the north, and then to the Tahoe Basin on the west side. And so the jurisdiction of the East Fork Township has a lot more coverage, and so obviously there'll be more cases. And the cases are significantly more. I don't know if it's, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe it's something like 2/3 to 1/3 of the Tahoe Township Justice Court. And I know that the commissioners looked at that issue earlier this year to see if they could even out the caseload, and they weren't able to resolve that question. But either way, I am happy to work as Justice of the Peace despite the caseload.
Mr. Johnson, the same question.
Okay, well, I hope I get my statistics right here. Last time I looked at this, if I'm remembering correctly, for comparison purposes, there are about 600 criminal cases filed a year in the Tahoe court, compared to a little over 1,000, I think, in East Fork. So yes, they do process more cases in the East Fork, which is why I've been working with Judge Gilbert, the current judge in East Fork. He's asked me on a few occasions to come down and sit for him. And Nevada law allows a judge of one township to come sit in the chair of the judge of the other township. On occasion also, for particular cases, I'll say, Judge Gilbert has sent cases up to my court, up at the lake for adjudication. The idea being is, yes, there is a disparity, but we can even it out amongst the judges. And I think it's worked out real well thus far. I've also worked with Judge Gilbert to deal with administrative issues. We've created uniform forms for use within the jail and attorneys, and I think it's made things a lot more efficient. So yeah, we've worked together. We're one county. We're both Douglas County.
Okay, with that, we'll move to question number, one more. Sorry.
Mr. Schemenauer.
Yeah, I agree with both these candidates here about that. And like Ms. Trotter said, it's down here, it's simply just larger. It's just more volume. And the commissioners and the system are addressing that. The new courthouse that will be built, hopefully in the next couple of years, will be completed, has room for a 4th court. So there is room to bring in another court because the county is going to continue to grow, and it is being addressed, but it's kind of a common sense thing. It's just more people down here. It's busier, and it's great to I know firsthand how much Judge Johnson is working with the East Fork in trying to balance the caseload. But it is being addressed with a new courthouse, and in the near future, we may have a second justice of the peace.
With that, question number 5. Please talk to us about your understanding of evidence and procedure. Mr. Johnson?
Well, the evidence code, the evidence rules in Nevada are based on the federal rules of evidence. They all appear in the 40-ish chapters of the Nevada Revised Statutes, but they basically follow the federal rules of civil procedure. We're talking about rules like, hearsay and admissibility, things like that. This is the kind of thing that you really need to have a handle on when you're presiding over a trial. Evidence objections come up constantly, and particularly if you're presiding over a jury trial, if you need to stick your nose in a book every time you need to look up one of the evidence rules, it's going to really slow things down, and it's not a efficient or proficient way of handling things. So I think having a good handle on the evidence code and having applied it in court over the years has really been beneficial for me.
Okay. Thank you. Same question to Mr. Schemenauer.
Yeah, I agree that having a good handle on the evidence code is very proper. All evidence starts with law enforcement when they start the case, and it gets booked in through the sheriff's office. And then just because it's booked in as evidence for the sheriff's office doesn't mean that it actually becomes part of the case. It may be deemed that it's irrelevant down the road. And that's physical evidence. Hearsay admissibility is something that gets ruled on at the time with a witness or a victim or a suspect on the stand. So evidence is important. It has varied levels from the law enforcement side of it to the procedural courtroom side of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Same question, Ms. Trotter.
So the Nevada Rules of Evidence and the Nevada Rules of Criminal Procedure are very important for attorneys that practice law in our county and in our state. If you're a criminal prosecutor like I am, when I'm going to trial or preliminary hearing, I use the Nevada Rules of Evidence and criminal procedure in every case. So evidence does not get admitted into court unless the Nevada Rules of Evidence are applied. And so the case Grace versus District Court came out in 2016, and it stated that the Nevada Rules of Evidence apply even at preliminary hearings. And it solidified the importance of having educated judges that understand the law, judges that can handle complicated evidentiary questions. And if evidence is offered inappropriately, or the judge rules inappropriately on an issue regarding evidence, the case can end and the offender could be released into the community.
So now we'll move on to question 6. Mr. Schemenauer, you will be first on this. Similar to the last question, but with some additions. Please tell us your knowledge of evidence, procedure, and constitutional law.
My knowledge on evidence and procedure is largely built around my 29 years of law enforcement. In my recent last 2 years working in the courtrooms, witnessing the procedures firsthand. We just discussed the evidence and the importance of it. And the judge does have to have a solid knowledge on what is allowed and what is not allowed. And that is largely argued by the district attorney and the defense. The judge ultimately rules on the final verdict of that, but it's being presented to the court by another party, and that's the prosecution. Second part of that question?
Constitutional law knowledge.
Constitutional knowledge. So in law school, I took a constitutional law class, and it's important to have a firm grasp of the Constitution. But like I mentioned earlier, the justice court judges do not really have the ability to strip you of your constitutional rights. If they were to allow the district attorney to act inappropriately, and it wasn't challenged by defense, that could be a problem that could violate constitutional rights. But like I said, we're not putting you in prison.
Time. Ms. Trotter?
So finishing up from the former question, so the rules of evidence matter a lot, and so a justice of the peace could make a mistake at a preliminary hearing on the rules of evidence, and the case could actually be dismissed if there is an error by the justice of the peace. And when that happens, is if it's a violent felony, say a murder, that would be a tragedy because the offender would be released based on an error, and it could be inexperience from the judge. So it's critical that the person who serves as the justice of the peace has the legal experience and training to be able to handle the rules of evidence and the rules of criminal procedure, and to be able to protect the constitutional rights of all the parties before the court, whether one is a plaintiff or a defendant. And I wanted a point of clarification is that evidence is presented both by the prosecution and by the defense. It's not just by the prosecution. And so the judge has to make rulings on evidence very quickly, but very carefully to make sure the constitutional rights of the defendant are not
Time.
violated.
Mr. Johnson.
So that's a really broad question, actually 3 really broad questions. So I'm just going to give an example for each one. So for evidence, the hearsay rule is the classic example of an evidentiary issue. The hearsay rule and the zillion exceptions to it, it's really a lot to deal with. Procedure, thought that comes to mind is the Justice Court Rules of Civil Procedure, JCRCP. These are the rules that govern civil cases in Justice Court. There for a number of years, so I have a good handle on those. Constitutional law, let me think of a case. So the Confrontation Clause, right? That's in the 6th Amendment to the Constitution. There was a case 20 years ago, Crawford versus Washington, that talks about the right of somebody to confront witnesses against them, right, of a criminal defendant to confront witnesses against them. And what happens when somebody leaves a message on a 911 tape but isn't in court to testify? Is that admissible as evidence? Is it violative of the 6th Amendment Confrontation Clause? So I gave you an example for each one. It's about the best I can do.
Okay, I believe that leads us now to question number 6. What has prepared you for this job, and why do you think you are the best candidate? Ms. Trotter?
So I'm the best candidate for the job because I have the legal experience and I have the education. So I started out I went to Gonzaga University School of Law and I graduated with honors magna cum laude in 2003. And I passed the Nevada bar exam on my first attempt. And I've been a lawyer in Nevada for 21 years, and I have been serving in this community for 21 years, both as a criminal prosecutor and as a defense attorney and as a civil attorney. I mentioned earlier, I also founded and managed a successful law firm where I practiced criminal defense and civil defense. I also worked as a deputy district attorney earlier on in Carson City, and I currently serve for the state of Nevada as an insurance fraud prosecutor as a senior attorney. I have also degrees in, a master's degree in strategic intelligence from the Joint Military Intelligence College, and I have a bachelor's degree in communications from Biola University.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson, same question.
What's prepared me for the job? Well, doing it for the last year, first of all. It's been a learning experience. But even before that, as I said earlier, I was a judge pro tem of that court for 18 years, and being a practicing attorney in front of that court, going in there and frankly learning from the presiding judge during that time period and other judges in other courts. So I think, doing that job and having prepared for it for, 20-something years, it's always been on my radar as a possibility. And I think, maybe the most complicated thing with the most moving parts that you need to have a handle on, you need to have experience on, is presiding over trials. And speaking for myself, I don't know how someone could take over as judge who has never handled as attorney or judge a trial before in any capacity. I would feel underqualified if I were in that situation, but of course I'm not.
Okay, same question to Mr. Schemenauer.
My 29 years of law enforcement and my 26 years working and living in Douglas County have prepared me to continue to serve this community. Clearly, I'm not an attorney, and I lack some of the legal acumen that's important for the job. When it comes to trials, and last year in the East Fork, there were only 2 jury trials, so it doesn't happen that often. We have the ability to bring in a senior judge so I can learn. I'm not afraid to ask for help. I'm not afraid to get more education. I'm an avid adult learner, and I think it's okay to have some on-the-job experience because the law in the Nevada Constitution does allow for, again, a non-attorney to be in that position. But it's my dedication to this community that's prepared for me for this position. I know what it takes to keep you safe. I have deep roots here, raised my family here, and I bring a 360-degree view of the law to the bench.
So as all of you know, the people in Douglas County are very smart, and an additional question that they've added today, and we'll start with Mr. Johnson, is what is your judicial philosophy?
Be prepared. So that takes to the level of preparation of, years of experience on a larger scale, and then be prepared for any given day, right? I spend my weekends looking at the files, preparing for what comes up on Monday. There's nothing, as an attorney, I can tell you, there's nothing more frustrating than coming to court and finding out the judge who you have a hearing with that day has not bothered to read your brief in advance. So being prepared is probably the most important thing, both in the larger sense and with regard to specific cases.
Mr. Schemenauer?
So my judicial philosophy, I'm your law and order candidate. I'm going to remain tough on crime. And I'm going to clarify that first-time offenders will be treated differently than repeat or violent offenders. I'm committed to justice for all, not just victims' rights. I believe that everyone's rights matter. I think accountability is a good philosophy to have, to make sure bail is appropriately set based on the severity of the crime, the propensity to reoffend, or the violence of the act. Justice needs to be blind. Everyone needs to know they can come to court and be innocent until proven guilty, or if you're a victim, to be heard. Thank you.
Ms. Trotter?
My judicial philosophy starts with protecting the Constitution. As a criminal prosecutor, I took an oath to protect and defend the Constitution, and I'm very proud of that. And as judge, when I serve as judge, I will make sure that I will protect the constitutional rights of all the parties before the court, whether plaintiff or whether defendant. And I'm a strong believer in that. Number two, I will preserve victims' rights. Victims often feel lost in the court system, and victims often are ignored in the court system, or they don't understand the process. I will work hard to preserve the rights of victims. They have constitutional rights through Marsy's law to participate in the court, to make statements, and to be heard. And I will make sure victims' voices are heard and their constitutional rights are preserved. And last but not least, I will serve with impartiality, integrity, and with fairness. I will also reserve all
Time.
of
That's
my...
time. With that, we have had over 50 questions just for the judicial candidates from the audience tonight. Unfortunately, there's not enough time in the evening to get to them all before it hits midnight. We have another minor, maybe contentious race that wants to have some discussional points. That being said, we're going to go to closing remarks. With that, Judge Johnson, in reverse order, you are the first to have closing remarks.
Sure. It's unfortunate that the person challenging me for my job is not here tonight, as I think it's important for the voters to hear from both candidates. That also takes some of the fun out of debating without somebody to debate. But I do have a solution. If voters want to see more of me and my opponent, we both applied to, a little over a year ago, to the county commissioners for the appointment. Obviously, I ended up getting that appointment. But those interviews are available on the county commissioner's website. And in fact, I just asked my tech guy, who's my 85-year-old dad, to put up a link to those videos on the Board of County Commissioners website, so you can see both when I was interviewed by the commissioners. This was a public interview in the commissioners' chambers last year, as was my opponent. And you'll be able to get to that link, obviously, off the Douglas County website, or you can get on my Facebook site, retainjudgejohnson.com. So thank you for listening to me tonight. I really appreciate it. I know most of you aren't going to be voting for me because you're in a different township than Tahoe, but if you like what you heard from me tonight, if you tell your friends up at the lake, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Now we're going to go to Ms. Trotter.
I'm the only candidate that's licensed to practice law, and I'm the only candidate who graduated from a ABA accredited law school, which is a requirement to be an attorney in Nevada. And I am the only candidate that has, in this race, that has legal experience. And I have 21 years of legal experience practicing civil and criminal law. And I have had, throughout my career, approximately 2,500 cases that I've prosecuted and defended. And I've had countless trials and hearings, motions and oppositions, and proposed orders for the court. Make no mistake, I love Douglas County and the people in it. And I love this law-abiding county, and I have a heart for justice. I promise that I will not let you down, and I will serve with integrity and fairness, moving forward into the future with hope. keeping our community safe and our children safe so that our community can thrive and prosper. I'm the only candidate with legal experience, and I'm asking that you vote for me because I'm the most experienced candidate, and I promise that I won't let you down.
Thank you, Ms. Trotter. Mr. Schemenauer.
Again, thank you to everyone who made this town hall event possible, and a special thank you to those in the audience and those viewing online. I appreciate your time coming here and listening to us talk. I just want to say I couldn't be on this journey without my wife, Cindy, and my daughter, Leah. Their love and support have been unwavering. Actually, I think I owe Cindy a new car if I get elected. Members of this community, you have a tough choice to make. You see, this race is unique here in the East Fork, as you have two good choices for your next Justice Court judge. My opponent and I are different people, and we'll bring different qualities and perspectives to the bench. But please consider this. Before you vote for any candidate in this election cycle, whether it be local, state, or federal, ask yourself, what has the candidate done for Douglas County, or the state of Nevada, or the United States of America? Now, I've told you what I've done. My lifetime of protecting Douglas County are not just words or promises. They are proven actions. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to very much thank the candidates. Remember, the candidates
we go live. Good evening. Welcome back to the second half of the 2024 Fall Town Hall Debate, hosted by the Business Council of Douglas County, the Carson Valley Chamber of Commerce, the Tahoe Chamber, as well as the Record Courier and Brian Copa Photography. We're happy to welcome our very full room with really no seats available, and also those of you at home. We're so happy that you are rejoining us for the second half of this evening's debate. I do want to point out that James Settlemeyer provided an excellent perspective and insight in the first half of the debate on the pro and con of some questions on the ballot that we all need more information on. And I'd like to thank James Settlemeyer for helping us understand from his perspective what exactly those questions mean and some thoughts of how we can think about what they mean to us before we put our vote in the election. Also, I want to let the folks at home know that we recognized Bobby Thompson, the immediate past president of the Business Council of Douglas County, for her incredible service on the board for many years. And she's not done, she's immediate past president, but for her service as president. And I'll have you know, and we'll have her show it to you here when we start the debate. She does have a gavel now, so everybody watch out at home too. I would like to now begin the second half of the debate with the school board candidates, and I will turn it back over to the moderators who did an incredible job in the first half. Thank you, Bobby and James. Please take it away. And there's her beautiful plaque for those at home.
Thank you. I did have one correction on the thing earlier. I talked about photo ID. I was a little bit incorrect on one aspect of it. If it passes, the photo ID will have to be shown every time that a person votes, whether that be a presidential election, a primary, a general, or a special election. So it's not just the first time you ever vote in person. So with that, we will commence the opening remarks from each of the candidates. The order for this evening, as we discussed earlier, was determined by lot. They had the opportunity to draw that. As part of that, though, we have two individuals. We have Mr. Zinke, who is District 4 candidate. He won in the primary and therefore is automatically the new school board representative for District 4. We have Yvonne Wagstaff from District 1. She was originally appointed and then she ran in the primary and defeated or won right there. So in that respect, she is also elected. Both those individuals have decided that it would be best to give their time up this evening in order to allow more interactions with those candidates that you'll be able to have choices on in the upcoming election. For that, we're all very appreciative, and thank you kindly for doing that. In this format for the evening, the ground rules have been reviewed, and the moderators, each candidates will be introduced with their opening remarks, like said, by number. After that, each candidate will be given up to 2 minutes for their opening remarks. The moderators will call on each candidate, signaling for you to proceed with your opening. As discussed earlier, when the time's up, I'll let you finish the sentence. Bobby will let you finish the sentence, but not begin a new one. Time is important to respect of all individuals here. After each candidate has been given their opening remarks, We will then go into the first debate round. The questions are drawn up by the chamber, the Business Council of Douglas County, submissions from the general public that came in online, and the moderators in a collaborative effort have sifted through those. The timekeeper will once again, keep track and warn that with the yellow card that you have 30 seconds remaining. Then the red card means your time is up. Again, please honor your time and do not speak past the red card.
So during the debate round, in the first round, there will be a possible pool of 8 to 10 questions on various topics that we can draw from. Each candidate will be asked a question in a round-robin format. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond. Opponents may request to rebut a response and debate it further. The moderators may accept or decline a rebuttal request. If granted a rebuttal, you will be granted 30 seconds. The moderators will then move to the next question in reverse order. The moderators may choose to have the follow-up questions based on your response or move to a new question in the round-robin round. The audience round, the next round of questions is from the audience. The audience and the community have the opportunity to submit written questions to the head table right over there. They will filter out any offensive, repeat, or irrelevant material and pass them to the moderator. If a question is directed to you in this round, you have 30 seconds to respond. Of course, if there are no questions from the audience, not likely, then we will move to the final round, but historically that is very unlikely. In the final round of the closing remarks, all candidates will have 1 minute and 30 seconds for their final remarks. There are no rebuttals or debating in the final round. The order you drew before the debate said who is first, second, and so forth, and that will be reversed in the final round.
So with that, we're going to begin with our opening remarks. Remember, everyone, we have 2 candidates up here running for District 3, and we have 2 candidates running for District 5. That being said, we're going to begin with Erin Miller, who is running for District number 3.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you for being online. Thank you, Business Council of Douglas County, for hosting us tonight. My name is Erin Miller, and I am running for Douglas County School Board, District 3. I live up in the lake. That is where my kids go to school. I am the parent of 3 DCSD schools district children. I have a sophomore, I have an 8th grader, and I have a 5th grader. I'm all levels of our school in our wonderful county. I'm a parent volunteer, not just up at the lake, but down here in Douglas County as well. I'm a coach, or I have been, at least up until this prior year when I decided to run for school board, for our local Pop Warner teams. I attended my first Douglas County School District meeting back in 2018 when I realized that I needed to start getting more involved, not just as a parent volunteer, but as a community member. I also joined our Family Life Sex Ed committee as a parent because I wanted to make sure as a parent, our community understands that our children are being taught good values and that age-appropriate material is being also used. Our parents are the #1 main influencer, and they are the responsible party for our kids. Our school is our support staff, and we need to make sure that our parents stay engaged. Recently, in the last 2 years, our board majority elected, and my opponent aligns with them, that proposed 3 things: parent involvement and transparency, higher student achievement, and to remove boys from girls' sports and bathrooms. Instead, they've torn down our schoolhouse. I want to build it back up. I am a parent. I want to give parents back the opportunity to put their input in, and I have a child who loves sports and wants to have that opportunity. Thank you.
With that, we'll now go to Antoinette Castleberry, who's running for District 5.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Antoinette Castleberry. I am a candidate for School District number 5, and I want to thank James Settlemeyer and Bobby Thompson for being here tonight. I am proud to live in Douglas County, and my family feels the same way. My family has been here for 29 years, and I have a grandchild at Douglas High School. We have a great county, a great school district, a great government, and great community organizations such as the Elks. I am an Elk. I am the chairperson for their major fundraiser, which is St. Jude's Ranch here in Nevada. It is a rehabilitation center for infants to 18-year-olds who have been abused and victims of sex trafficking. I have 50 years of experience advocating, motivating, coaching, teaching, and fundraising for kids. I was the track coach at the Santa Cruz Track Club, and I coached kids ages 5 to 13. I had one kiddo who's 9. Her name is Nikki Hills, and Nikki Hills currently holds the U.S. record for the fastest woman, the time in the 1,500-meter race. I was a court-appointed special advocate fighting for the rights of foster kids. 2 judges came to me and asked me to take these 3 siblings. No one else would take them because they were labeled feral. I took them, and I was the constant in their life. I was a teacher's aide in the Head Start program. I went to the schools and taught dental health. My dad taught me to be the accountant for his businesses, and I speak from my heart. Your kids come first, your grandkids come first, and they always will. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we'll go to trustee Doug Engelkirk, running for District 3.
Good evening. Thanks for having me, or thanks for coming out to listen and hear our discussions. I've lived here in the Lake Tahoe area for 29 years. I've been married for 29 years, raised 2 sons in the district. I've been a general contractor for 40 years, and I'm a conservative, born-again Christian. I'm running for re-election. I ran 4 years ago because I was concerned and I wanted to stop the progressive woke agenda from taking more ground across our nation. I didn't run because I have extensive experience in education. I received a Bachelor of Science in Engineering from UCLA, not education. I didn't run because I have time to visit all the schools and be involved in the activities. I don't. I see my position on the board as one of overseer. We as a board have one employee, and that is the superintendent. He is in charge of the day-to-day running of the district. I was the deciding vote in hiring our current superintendent. Mr. Alvarado seems to be up to the task, as evidenced by the positive feedback I received about him. I am for getting back to basics. Schools across the nation waste precious funds on distractions, not equipping our students to enter society as contributing adults. In my opinion, DEI, CRT, and parts of SEL, and all the programs associated with them are all at best distractions or distortions, and at worst downright destructive to our society. That is why I'm running for re-election. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we have Melinda Gonighting, also running for District number 5.
Good evening, and thank you for having me. I'm thankful for everyone who took the time to come tonight, and for our moderators and all those who took so much care in setting this up and so much preparation. My name is Melinda Gonighting, and I'm running for District 5. A little bit about me is I grew up on a small potato farm in southeast Idaho. It was really here where my values were set of hard work, honesty, and common sense. Shortly after I graduated from school with my bachelor's in social work and completed my internship at an elementary school, I moved here. I have lived here in the Valley for 24 years. That's me personally, not just family in the Valley, that's me. I've been here for 24 years. And I've raised 4 kids. All of my kids attended Douglas County schools. My youngest is currently a freshman at DHS. And I've been very involved with youth and our schools throughout the 24 years. I've volunteered in my kids' classrooms. I have coached track at Powaloo. I currently help with the DHS marching band. I've coached AYSO soccer, Parks and Recs volleyball. I was the co-program director for Cub Scout Day Camp for 3 years. So I've been in and out of the schools on a regular basis. And one of the things that this does for me is it gives me a chance to get to know parents, students, teachers, administrators, to develop those relationships. I think I will be much more effective in knowing the people I'm serving, and I share their values. And also, I'm running as a mother because I was concerned. I was concerned about current board decisions. We can't think that spending $400,000 in 1 year isn't going to affect our children and their education and our teachers. I can't think that silencing people's voices to 90 seconds before a meeting begins on all action items is fair to the community. They need to be able to be heard. And most of all, I want to refocus and focus on our kids, focus on their needs, focus on teaching them basics.
Time. So for our first question, everyone says they support teachers. What sets you apart as far as retention, specific support, and respect for teachers and staff? And we will start with Ms. Castleberry.
Oh, I first of all want to support the teachers financially. I understand that they got a 18% raise this year, and I was happy about that. I also want them to have full agency to teach the subjects that they are so skilled in teaching. I understand that a lot of parents are not happy with EPIC, and the teachers were not happy with EPIC. And I understand that the funds for the coaches will be drying up soon, and that way the teachers will have the time and the ability to not be filling out reports, but getting back to teaching the basic curriculum.
Same question for Mr. Engelkirk.
I too was, I was on the board when we voted for the raise for the teachers. I think the most money we can get to the teachers, the more encouraged they are to stay. I think the other thing, like Antoinette said, was there is a lot of things that the teachers are inundated with that I would like to free up. There's just programs that are just not needed. I'd like to give the teachers the freedom to teach the way they want to teach. And so that would be my philosophy now and going forward.
Ms. Netting.
I think one thing, I agree with paying teachers what they're worth. I agree with being there. I am there. When the teachers call me, come. They wanted me to judge the literacy competition at CC Manili a few months ago. Anyway, I was there. I was there to do that. I am there to support them, and I've been there since 2005 when my oldest started kindergarten. I want a positive environment for them. You can't sit and say how awful scores are that and not have the teachers and say you support teachers. I am all about taking our kids' scores and working to increase that, but we need to support and focus on the positive things our teachers are doing, because they do a lot. And I think one of the things I bring is that I'm in and out of the schools on a regular basis. I'm there when the teachers need me, and I will continue to do that.
And Ms. Miller.
So teacher support starts from the top down. Our teachers need to know that our board supports them, and I think currently that isn't happening. Our teachers don't think that their input going to the trustees is being heard. Their voices have been silenced, just like our parents have, and that's frustrating for our teachers. Our teachers are helping our kids learn reading, writing, mathematics. They're also teaching our kids career tech programs. They're teaching our kids life skills. And if our teachers don't feel that the top is supporting them going down, they're not going to be putting in the extra effort to help make sure our community as a whole thrives.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to question number 2. What are the 3 biggest challenges facing public education in Douglas County right now versus 2 years ago? Mr. Engelkirk?
I'm not sure that they've necessarily changed that much from 2 years ago, but probably one of the biggest is our dwindling enrollment for years now, a lot longer than I've been on the board. Our enrollment's been dwindling, and it's not precipitously, but it's enough that we lose funding every year. Another thing that we lost was it used to be all the taxes from the county went into our coffers to pay for our education. Now they go to the state and they're distributed to the coffers. So, well, that's the first one, and I'm running out of time here. Second one is basically we just have to get more to a cordial board setting, and I think my attitudes on the board meetings have been pretty mainstream. I'm not sure how to say that, but I'm trying to say I would like to bring some modicum of decency to our board meetings in the future.
Thank you. Same question to Ms. Netting.
I would say one of the number one problems is fiscal responsibility. We have to stay within budget, and we have to, especially with legal fees, bring those down. We do have decreased enrollment, which is also plays into we have to even be more careful with our money. And I think we have to work on building programs that attract people to come. The second thing is we need to switch the environment. If I was looking to move to a school district and I was aware of all the contention and all of the upheaval that has happened in our district, I would have major reservations about teaching there, about sending my kids there. So that's got to end. We have to come together and end the divisiveness. And I would say the third one is we need to get more focused on our kids. We need to be talking about what we can do to help them reach their goals.
Thank you. Same question, Ms. Miller.
So we hear a lot about fiscal responsibility. One thing that happened back in 2018 was the fact that our senators, our congressmen changed the way that things were allocated. Being a parent involved at that time, I emailed all of our congressmen, our senators, whoever would listen, because I felt that that was going to be the wrong aspect for our community as a whole. Douglas County has one of the highest taxes based on where we live, and our kids should get the benefit of that. That's going to have to change by a lobbying process. That's where NASB and other things like that come into play. That's where we can get our budget back on track, along with unnecessary spending that we need to rein in. The other thing is enrollment. We hear a lot about declining enrollment, and yes, we do, but we have variances that we can apply for or that can be applied towards our community. We have to offer programs that our kids and our community outside of Douglas County are going to want to be a part of. And that leads into career